It's a month since I recorded my first video. I think month on month would be a really cool way to kind of record these video diary entries because a huge amount happens in the garden from month to month. So a huge amount has happened this month. We started off with some glorious weather during the day. It was really hot, up to kind of 26, 27 degrees, which for Ireland is very hot, particularly in May. But we also had some very, very, very cold nights. So we had night frosts. I think the last hard frost was on the 15th of May, which is very late. We do get frost in May, but the 15th of May for a particularly hard frost is very, very strange. It killed off all my pumpkins, unfortunately. It also killed off beetroot, which is normally quite hardy. It killed off my beans. Yeah, so there was quite a lot of damage done by the frost. Also my Japanese maple in my actual ornamental garden suffered a good bit of frost damage. So luckily I had some spare pumpkins in the greenhouse which were able to go out. My potatoes also got killed back to the ground. I had some oca out that got destroyed, but both of those seem to have bounced back a little bit, which is great. I'm in the greenhouse now, so I might give you a quick look around in here and then we'll move out to the garden. This is the greenhouse from the door. So I've done a good bit of work in here. So this would have all just had those slabs on the bottom. Over here had a bit of weed suppressant membrane down. So I've gotten these scaffolding boards, which these ones happen to just fit perfectly, which was great. These ones I thought would be the same, but the one was a little bit long, so I need to cut a bit off that before I can do the other side. But they have this, they had this kind of soil underneath, which isn't great. It's very stony and full of rocks and things, but I was able to put this compost down on top of it, and then I have my tomatoes growing on that side. So the plan is to have some more tomatoes down the end there, some peppers, aubergines, melons, what else have I got? Cucumbers, those kinds of things that we have to grow inside in this climate. We can't grow those outside in Ireland because it's just not, doesn't get warm enough, and it could be quite cold and wet. There was a seed potting bench up here, which I have moved outside. Oh, sorry, there's some uchiki curry squashes there, which should be interesting. I've never grown those before. There was a potting bench in here, but I decided to build this vertical kind of seedling table to kind of use as much the space as best I could in here. So I'll have a look at what we've got on here now. So in here we have some celery at the front there. And then in the back I have some lettuces and some courgettes and that kind of thing. I'm very late starting this year because, as I said, we only moved here in April, but also with the COVID-19 situation, I haven't been able to get seeds the way I would have liked. So we're a bit kind of behind, but sure, we'll do our best and see what happens. We've got some peppers here, a little bit of, what's that? Oh, it's rosemary growing in there behind. And then we have some chili peppers, which I don't know if we'll get any chilies off because they're a bit late. And there's some celeriac, I think, in the back there. And up onto the next bench, we have, these are some peppers. It says purple TP on them, but I had been growing beans in them. I just reused the pots. They are gardener's delight tomatoes. And then over here, we've got some peppers, some more tomatoes, some more celeriac. And in the back, they're doing quite well. They'll have to get planted out soon. Well, when I say planted out, planted to my left. We've got some aubergines, some melons, and some cucumbers. So it's very sad looking tomato plants. They were just spares, so if they come back, I've given them a sup of water. If they come back, I'll pass them on to somebody who might use them. If not, they can just go into the compost bin. So I have a load of different varieties of tomatoes growing down here. I've got yellow pear, sun gold, beefsteak, and those ones down the end were given to me by my brother-in-law. I have no idea what they are. Some kind of beefsteak, I'd say. And I'm just growing these up these twines, which are just put in under the roots of the plant to give them a little bit of support. Apparently it works better than canes. Never used it before, so we'll see. And then down there I have a little basil plant that my dad gave me. I don't really like basil, I don't like pesto or anything like that, but apparently growing the basil with the tomatoes improves the flavour. So we'll see how that works out. I'm just looking at these two tomato plants, which, as I said, my brother-in-law gave me, and very excitingly, I've discovered tomatoes! Oh, that's so exciting. I've no idea what they are, but sure. Oh, I'll just be delighted to get anything at this stage. So we'll head out to the main garden now. Cara has decided to join us. We've had some pretty bad luck recently with this garden. In that, firstly, as I said before, everything was killed off by the frost. We managed to get it back into a pretty good state, and then we had a jailbreak. The horses got in overnight. We didn't know they were in here, and they just wreaked absolute havoc on it. Patches likes to dig holes, and he dug a hole in the leek bed. I've managed to fill it all back in, but the leeks that were there are obviously not going to survive. There's still some. We'll have a look. There's still a few that have managed to do okay. You can see them there. So we might still get a few leeks, but that's the big hole that he dug, so there's no leeks in there. They also took a trip across this bed, which has my pumpkins and squashes in it, and there were some beans growing in here, which they seem to have dug up, but... Oh, actually, hang on a minute. A bean! Yay! Okay, so some of them have survived, so that's good. We'll hope for the best with that. We might not get too many, but at least there's some in there. And what we have in here are 100-weight pumpkins and what is the other one? Delicata squash, which I've tried to grow a few times, but delicata seems to be in the name. They don't seem to do very well. So over here, again, this bed was gone trampled through by the horses. I had just put in these turnips, and I managed to stick a few of them back into the ground, and they seem to be doing okay, so we'll hope for the best of that. This squash, I don't know what's wrong with this squash. It's not doing great. In fact, it's not doing well at all. It's very floppy. I'm not really sure what the story is with that, but sure. If it dies, it dies. We'll just hope for the best. There's some more burlotty beans there in the middle. Two of them have sprouted up, and then over here we have another squash, which I think... Yeah, that's a Crown Prince squash, which is the same as this one, so I can't understand why that one's doing so much better. Down here we have the beetroot, which was grown in the greenhouse, which is doing quite well. The other side had bull's blood beetroot, which was killed off by the frost. I don't know the difference between the red and the green foliage. The green seems to have survived much better. And then all my beans were killed off, so I just direct sowed some more purple teepee out here, and they're coming up now, which is great. So hopefully we'll get a few beans. Then, oh, this is so disappointing. My peas were fabulous. They were doing so great. They were huge, and oh, they were just brilliant. But the horses decided that they would make a nice snack. This whole area with all the sticks was full of peas. They were gorgeous. But yeah, it turns out horses like pea shoots, so they pulled the vast majority of them up. You can see there the bit at the back that they weren't able to get their snouts into it, so at least they're doing okay. I happened to have a half packet of seeds for this, so I've replanted them, and it's only the beginning of June, so you know, fingers crossed it might work. They didn't trample anywhere that had some sticks or supports or anything, so my runner beans are doing all right. They're looking pretty good. Yeah, they're not looking too bad at all. And then over here, what are they? They're Jerusalem artichokes. They're doing great. They're flying up. I can't believe how quickly they grow, but apparently they grow up to like 3 meters or something shocking like that. So they'll be well taller than me, which is why they have this bit of support for them, because it's very windy here. But I'm quite excited by those. They're supposed to have lovely flowers, like they're related to sunflowers, so that should be quite nice. And then my poor carrot and parsnip bed was absolutely trampled. So my carrots, I raked it in preparation for some new carrots, but at least I can throw down some decent compost on top of this dry soil, and hopefully it'll work a little bit better. They didn't germinate great. They were okay, but they were a bit patchy. And my parsnips in the middle, I've always found it so difficult to get parsnips to germinate, and they were doing great, but now they'll be all gnarled and stuff from the horses having gone trampling through. You can see some hoof prints still in this bed. I've ordered some more seeds. It's a little bit late, but I don't know whether to leave these or to plant or to sow some new ones, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then down here I had some more turnips, which I popped them back in as well. They're not doing quite as well as the other ones that I popped back in, but you see one carrot there survived in the background, just there. Yeah. It's disappointing, but what can you do? They went trampling through the onions as well. You can see some nice hoof prints there in the middle, but I'd say we'll still get a decent crop of onions. They're fairly well established. They obviously don't like garlic because they didn't go down there. They weren't too keen on going trampling through my potatoes either, which are doing great. They all died off. They went all the way back down to the ground when we had that hard frost at the middle of May. But they've come back really well, so I'm mulching them with grass clippings. We'll see how that goes. Never done that before, but you know, have to try everything once. Apparently it works quite well, and we have an unending supply of grass clippings in this place because we have quite a lot of grass. You can see the difference. I always think this is really interesting, the difference between the red potatoes, which have purple in the middle of their leaves, and then this variety, which are white potatoes and they don't. I just think that's really cool. Then this bed here, this is new from the last time. I've built this cage over the top of it. I'm going to put some of the netting across it to keep the pigeons and butterflies and things off. But I haven't got around to doing that yet. I just built the cage. So in here I've got cabbages, cauliflowers. Oh, what else have we got? Cabbages, cauliflowers, lots of different cabbages. Broccoli, Romanesco, which is really cool. I don't know if you've ever seen Romanesco. It looks like an alien version of broccoli. It's really cool. And then over here my oca, which was also killed back, but seems to be picking up pretty well. I lost a couple of plants. There was one here, and there was one over here, and there was one here. That one in the middle had been in the greenhouse, so I only just planted that out. I think we should be safe from frost at the beginning of June. I hope so anyway. Over here we've got some curly kale, which it'll be a great crack at Halloween to make some colcannon out of. And Brussels sprouts for Christmas. Nobody likes Brussels sprouts, really. Well, I'm sure there are people who like Brussels sprouts, but we all eat them at Christmas anyway because you kind of have to, because it's part of the Christmas dinner. And then over here, first of all, I had beetroot in that got firstly killed by the frost. Some of it survived, and then the horses trampled through it. So it's rather a lot of it is gone. But sure, what can you do? I also have a few spare cabbages and cauliflowers and things in here. Yeah, it's very disappointing when all your hard work gets squished, but sure, that's animals for you. So here I have another brassica bed. I will be putting this netting on the one over here as well. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But this is full of turnips, called Swedes in a lot of countries. We call them turnips. I know there are also, like, they're actual turnips and these are Swedes, but we call the whole lot turnips. I have some purple sprouting broccoli and something else that I can't remember what it is because I've lost the labels off everything. But sure, we'll figure it out when it grows. And then over here, something I've tried to grow a few times is, what's it called? Kohlrabi, which should be interesting because I've never grown it before. Well, I've tried to grow it a few times. The last time it got decimated by slugs, but I don't seem to have too many slugs here now, which is great. I've had no slug damage so far. So, yeah, interesting. We'll see what happens with them. And then this bed down here, I still have to fill. Don't know what to put in that one. I think my cheeky curry squashes will go in there. I'm going to try and grow them upwards. I have a bit of this 2x1 left, so I'll build a frame for them to grow up and see if that works. If not, sure, they can just spill over the edge and grow it into the grass. It'll be fine. And then there are the culprits. Look at them. Butter wouldn't melt. Oh, I was so annoyed with them. But sure, they're only doing what horses do, eating nice things and digging holes. Haven't done much with the wildlife garden yet. We'll have to see what happens there. That's probably going to be a project for this autumn and into next spring. It's a bit late now for wildflower seeds and that kind of thing. I'm going to build the pond in the winter time, around the same time as I'm going to do the orchard, November, December. Apparently it's the best time for building the pond, and then plant it up in the spring. So we've come quite a ways in the last month. I'm quite proud of what we've achieved, even with the frost and even with the rogue horses. Yeah, I'm quite happy with it. It's looking good. Hopefully we'll get a few veg out of it. We'll definitely get some onions anyway, and some turnips, and yeah, happy days.